So this month, in recognition of Autism Awareness Month, we have two of our autism client families joining us. A big thank you to Jen and Ashley for coming to share their stories. We also have Danny, our executive director and co-founder, here to give us a little overview of the autism program, how it started and how it's developed over the years. So I will pass the floor over to Danny first. Danny, it's all yours.
Thank you, Emma. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's really great to see everybody out. It's been a really busy week. Last week, we had all kinds of stuff going on for Volunteer Appreciation Week, and we're rolling through with evenings this week with our Knowledge Nibble. So everything autism in the month as we wrap up Autism Awareness. NSD was founded on our Autism Service Dog program way back in 1996. We didn't know it at the time, but we were the first program in the world to develop a service dog model for children with autism. We didn't come to learn that until we attended our first Assistance Dogs International Conference in January of 2000. So we'd been up and running for 3 and a bit years before attending our first ADI conference. And it was an eye-opener for sure, but definitely learning that what we were doing was outside of the norm of a typical service dog way back in 1990, the late 90s, early 2000s. And a wholly new way of utilizing dogs to service a whole new community. And so it was a bumpy start, to be honest, just from a program development. I had some personal experience with autism. I had a couple cousins that were impacted by autism. And so I had some experience working with kids and being around kids who were on the spectrum. And my fellow co-founders did not have that kind of experience. And so we really, it was trial and error. The first dog that went out to a child that was 4 years old. And it was highly successful. Had it not been that successful, we all wouldn't be sitting here right now, to be honest with you, because our second placement crashed and burned in 6 months. So it was definitely, like I said, a very steep learning curve. In the first placement, we got very lucky. We got a really good dog in Shade. And she was just the right fit for this family and for the 4-year-olds. And what's interesting is that, I mean, we started right from the get-go with breaking new ground. That dog went to school from kindergarten right through to grade 12 in the Waterloo Catholic school system, which is ironically the school board that is now banning pretty much service dogs for children with autism these days. So it's kind of funny that they were trailblazers 30 years ago, not so much anymore. But yeah, it was an interesting journey. And as we learn more through the Geneva Center for Autism in Toronto, we attended their conference in the fall of 1996. We were in the middle of training Shay to be deployed, and we went to the autism conference and had 30 requests from dogs from conference attendees from all over Canada and the United States. And that's what really cemented it for us that we needed to start National Service Dogs, and autism was the focus. We had, in those first 4 years, we had requests coming in from all over the world once it got out through the Geneva Center that we were doing it. We had people reaching out. You have to remember, back in 1996 and 97, I didn't even have internet at home. I had a desktop computer, but I had no internet. I didn't have internet at home until 2000. There was no social media, there was nothing. So it was word of mouth and through the autism community. And we were getting requests by 2000, we were getting requests for dogs, autism service dogs from Iceland, Australia, UK, all over North America. And of course, we were just doing it out of our homes. Up until middle of 2000, we were 100% volunteer run, just doing it on our days off and using our vacation time to run the program. But the autism program, we made the decision in 2000 that we couldn't be all things to all people. In the first few years, we did some physical disability support dogs. We did some hearing dogs. We did a couple guide dogs, believe it or not. But once we found out that the reason we were being slammed with requests is because nobody was doing this work. And it became very overwhelming very quickly. And we made the decision in early 2000s to drop the other programs and just focus 100% on the Autism Service Dog program. And back in the day, the key things that the dogs were doing, really, it was just about helping with sleep routines, like right from the get-go, was part of what people were in need of. The safety pieces, like that halt command, was the foundation of everything, keeping those littles from, bolting into a street or in some cases into the river, and things like that. So that halt command was the backbone of it all. And then the other pieces, the social anxiety pieces, these stress relief, the overs and the visits, that all evolved later. And it continues to evolve. The programs and the supports that the dogs, and Ashley can speak best to this because she got her first autism service dog for her son back in a different iteration of our autism program. And then she just got Sandy last year, and the training was completely different. The commands are different, and I'll let Ashley speak to that. But that's what we need to do as a program, right? Is to continue to evolve, continue to meet the needs of the kids, and to meet them where they are and support them as best we can as they transition. So when we started the autism program, obviously the safety pieces were top of mind. The primary function of the dog was those safety pieces. Obviously, as the kids get older, they do, a lot of kids, not all, because autism is a spectrum, but many of the kids, the safety issues become less of the need, and then it becomes the social anxiety and mental health supports that become more predominant. And we work with families that are transitioning with their kids. So as we sit here 27 years in, we have families that got their dog when their kids were young, decided that they didn't need a replacement dog when their dog retired and opted not to get another service dog, but maybe got a companion dog instead. We have some of our clients who are into their late 20s and early 30s and are on their third dog. So it really is a bit of an evolution for the program as we go forward. And of course, the industry has evolved as well. In the early days, people didn't know what to do with an autism service dog from an international community of service dog providers. It wasn't, believe it or not, welcomed with open arms within the service dog community. They did not know quite what to do with it because it's one of the only, at the time, back in 1990s, in the 1990s, service dogs were a service dog and a handler. The autism program blew the doors off that model where you have one dog, one handler, the dog works for the person on the end of the leash, because our kiddos obviously don't have full control, or some of them don't have the capacity to independently handle their dogs. So the parent or whoever the adult on the end of the leash is that handler. That was a model that did not exist in the service dog world when we first started this. And they had a hard time wrapping their head around a team being 3 people, not, or 2 people and a dog, not 1 person and a dog. So it was an interesting battle to build that and to build awareness around autism, how the dogs could be successful. My first ADI conference back in 1990, it was 1990. No, it would have been not 1999. It would have been 2001, January 2001. I went and somebody asked me about the dogs and told me it was BS, that they weren't real service dogs. And then 6 or 7 years later, the same person came to me and said, well, how many clients do you have? And at that point, I think we had 40 or 50. And he said, well, how does this work for you? And these kids are still have the dogs and they're successful and they're going to school. And I'm like, yep. And then they started their own program. I won't name the school because it was a bit, like I said, it was a bumpy start, but it was down in the States. But that's a pushback that we got until people could actually see it working, stepped outside of the box of what a service dog team should look like, and accepted the fact that we could have dogs working very effectively for children under the age of 18 who could not independently handle their dog, as long as they had that triangle of support: mom, adult handler, child, and dog. So that was a really big push through. Part of the way we dealt with the demand in the early days, because obviously we made the decision very early on as well that we would service Canada only, because the demand was huge, and why go outside of our borders if we can fulfill our wait list within Canada. But as a form of revenue, because we didn't have a lot of money back in the day, we developed what we called the Train the Trainer program. And we had a very nice company donate all the printing. So we did really flashy flyers and all the marketing materials. And we sent it out there and back in the day, again, not a lot of internet. So you had to mail everything out, mailed it to programs all over the world. And we invited other programs to come in on a fee-for-service basis and learn how to start an autism service dog program. So in 2004, we hosted a trainer from Irish Guide Dogs for the Blind. It was our first Train the Trainer contract. She came out and stayed with us for a month while the dogs were going through NSD University, then went home to start setting up her program at Irish Guide Dogs, and then came back a few months later to do the whole team training process with our team here in Canada. And then went home and finished their first cohort of dogs. And then we sent one of our trainers, the Irish Guide Dog team paid for one of our trainers to go out and assist with their team training class so they could get their first dogs out the door. And we recreated that model with Irish Guide Dogs for the Blind and Bocolon Foundation in Spain, numerous programs down in the United States, a couple here in Canada, Righteous Pups in Australia. We worked with well over a dozen programs worldwide to help them start the autism service dog programs in their regions. And it was exciting to watch all that happen, because of course they took what we were doing and made it better, right? Everybody made things grow, and we'd come back together at the Assistance Dogs International conferences and talk to these programs that were doing all this great work. And it's like, oh, we tried this with the dogs and it really worked. And that's how the skills and the tasks and everything have evolved over the years, is everybody just taking the base model and putting their own spin on it and coming up with better ways and new ways of utilizing the dogs for those support services. So it's been pretty amazing. And Irish Guide Dogs, to their credit, went on to train most of the programs in the UK that were starting autism service dog programs as well. And so, you know, you teach 2 people, they teach 2 people, before you know it, there's literally hundreds of programs around the world today, impacting literally thousands of families through their autism service dog programs. So It has been a fun journey. It has been a labor of love for sure. But we wouldn't be here if not for the families that we support. I'm not going to talk anymore because you really don't want to hear from me. You need to hear from the ones that are living autism every day and have our wonderful dogs. Ashley and her family have been with us. How long has it been now, Ash? It's been almost over a decade since you got Lola, right?
So I think we applied 11 years ago and we got her 9 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's
So Ashley's got Lola for Landon, and they just got Sandy last fall. And Jennifer's a newbie too. They've got her son Zion and cute little Patty.
yeah.
He's so cute. So for Ashley, as I said, she's got a tale of two dogs, no pun intended. She can see and speak to how the program has evolved, how the dogs and their training have evolved. But and I'm curious to hear from you too, no pressure. If the difference in the dogs and the impact, and if there's anything in the short time that you've had Sandy that you've noticed, Ashley.
Definitely there are definitely differences. I wouldn't have been able to say that I prefer it now without the experience, of course, but I would say that Lola, when she had her jacket on, was a completely different dog when she had her jacket off, whereas Sandy is the same dog with her jacket on or off. Her personality doesn't disappear. She's ready to rock anytime, whether her jacket's on or off. Lola's an amazing dog, always willing to work. But definitely there was a difference when she was wearing her coat and when she wasn't. So that's just one very obvious thing. I think the program now is more focused on the dog's well-being than it was in the past. Not that that wasn't noted, but I think just from my perspective as a handler, not feeling pressured to use Sandy all the time, knowing that they're dogs and they can take breaks and that's totally okay. But it's still new. Sandy's only been with us since November. So, but that's just off the top of my head, differences that I can see. Do you have specific questions maybe about it?
I don't, but if you would, you just want to tell people a little bit about your story and the impact. I know
Sure.
you and I could go on forever about your experience with getting Lola in and out of school.
Yeah,
We probably
so
shouldn't go there.
I did do a little PowerPoint with a recording just because I wanted to make sure that obviously autism is the highlight. So it focuses more on my son. And then afterwards I can talk about the dogs specifically and maybe their differences because there's certainly quite a few. If that's okay. I'm not sure how to do it on my end. Are you able?
It's okay. I can share it, Ashley.
I was
Okay.
just going to say that's an Emma question.
Okay.
I will.
Hi, I'm Ashley and I am Landon's mom. Landon is 12 and he's the oldest of our 3 boys. He was the easiest going baby of our 3 by far. We started to notice, though, around 6 months old, that he wasn't typically developing despite hitting his physical milestones like rolling and sitting up. By 12 months old, we saw his first regression, and by 19 months old, he was diagnosed with autism. Of course, I knew what autism was, but only what's portrayed in the movies. So I immediately went to Google. My family lost me to the computer for about 6 months. I couldn't understand how a doctor had rocked our world in such a huge way and then said goodbye without so much as a pamphlet. I forgot to mention that the week Landon was diagnosed, I gave birth to my middle son a month before his due date. My husband works out of the province and at that time was traveling for 2.5-week stretches. To say I was overwhelmed would be an understatement. We did what we thought we should do, like lots of families do. Speech, OT, ABA, it all came with positives and negatives. When therapists would ask, "What does he like?" I'd often pause. I didn't know. It wasn't obvious to me. It seemed to change from day to day. He was in a world I felt like I couldn't enter. I needed a magic code, and Google had let me down. I eventually looked away from the computer and back at him. I'd realized that our jokes about our pet dogs being his favorite members of the family were actually true. The dogs got the most engaged action and attention out of any of us. One physical milestone he missed was walking. Finally, at around 18 months old, he started moving and didn't stop. He became a bolter. When he was happy, sad, mad, he'd bolt. I couldn't keep up with a newborn and often an armful of groceries, a diaper bag, and him. So during one of my late night Google searches, I came across NSD. I talked to my husband, and the next day we put in an application. Approximately 2 years later, Lola came home to us. I remember during team training questioning what I had just done. My hands were so full, and here I was adding to my plate. But that first night at the hotel with her, I knew she was my magic code. I'd prepared for a slow connection and a slow bonding period. Landon was so young, and Lola had come from another placement that hadn't been successful. But I was wrong. They were the sweetest duo from the beginning. Landon had never slept through the night and would wake up for long stretches wanting to party, wanting to eat, play, go to the park. Night one, when she was home with him, he stayed in his bed the entire night. 8 years later, and I can confidently say he never got up at 2 a.m. ready to party again. I started making a list of things Lola made better for this little project, and I'll just sum it up by saying everything. She made everything better. Talking about when we got her is a little bittersweet now because our golden girl is retired. During her working years, she worked so hard and has earned her lazy days at home. Our story with NSD doesn't end with her retirement, though. Just this past November, NSD Sandy joined our circus. Initially, we were not going to apply for a second service dog. Landon is 12. He's no longer a runner. He's in a mainstream classroom. He has hobbies, friends. All of this in part because of Lola. But when the time came to pick a list, companion or service dog, we actually sat down and had a conversation with Landon. We quickly realized that he doesn't know life without a service dog. COVID was hard on him, and we've seen changes. Reclusiveness, anxiety, hormones. I didn't know what to expect. There couldn't possibly be two perfect working dogs for Landon. I was wrong. Again. Another instant bond. Lola was perfect for 4-year-old Landon. Sandy is perfect for 12-year-old Landon. Two very different dogs with equally important jobs that they both have excelled at. That in itself speaks to NSD and the program they have. Landon is thriving, and I can't fathom the different child, he'd prefer teen, although he's still only 12 for a few more months, that we'd have today without NSD.
So, Ashley, I don't know if you want to add anything onto that. I'm not going to keep talking because I'm about to start crying.
Yeah, that was
I just
beautifully
recorded
done.
it, and I'm like, oh, just looking at his little baby face and talking
Yeah.
about Lola's retirement is always hard because, she's getting older. And sorry, hold on, I'll be right back.
No, that's okay. The year, her first placement, found out sometimes what happens when we do the placement, sometimes stuff comes up for families that they didn't even know were issues, whether it's allergies or just family situations arise. And it wasn't an issue with the dog or the family that originally had her, but they opted to return her to us voluntarily at the end of the first, in around a year after she was deployed due to some changes in their family circumstances. And she was deployed out. So she had about a year's worth of work on her when she went out, which I think benefited Landon as well, because he was fairly young, and it's nice to have a dog that has a few miles on them as well. But Ashley, I think I can probably talk, because he went to school with Lola. Landon and Lola went to school together.
Yeah, for
And
grade 1, like grade 1, and then by grade 3, grade 2 was really rocky. Grade 1 was actually really successful, and probably the time that we needed her there the most. And then grade 2, it was rockier. And so over the summer, with talking to you and your support, we decided not to have her return in grade 3. So it was for the best, but
yep.
he has his heart set on Sandy going to high school, so we'll see.
Yeah. No, it's difficult. Unfortunately, things have devolved when it comes to the kids going to school with their dogs. It's the resources aren't there like they used to be. When we first started and our first kids started going to school, kids, especially in integrated classrooms, had one-on-one EA support. Our first service dog team that went from junior kindergarten right through to grade 12, from junior kindergarten to grade 8, had the exact same EA for that whole time frame. And then when they transitioned into high school, they had a new EA, but that EA was with them for the 4 years of high school. And that just doesn't happen anymore. And it makes it really difficult for the kids to be successful with their dogs at school and get that extra support. And it's discouraging, to say the least, but I got to see them in action in school, and they were quite the dynamic duo.
Yeah, people still stop us and say, "Oh, you're Landon's mom. How's Lola?" Like I'm an EA, and so we get supplies that come into my school. "Oh my goodness, I got to see your son once with his dog." And so they're definitely well known. Barrie's a big city, but our neck of it is kind of small. So yeah, they're well known still. But school, it had its positive. Definitely grade 1, he was just transitioning back into elementary school. He had been out of school for a year doing IBI full time. And so the transition back to the classroom, we were stressed about it. Landon was obviously stressed about it. And Lola really helped kind of alleviate that. And it made it a really successful year. Unfortunately, it's really dependent on the staff too. Like, he had a fantastic teacher and an awesome hands-on EA in grade 1. He didn't have that team in grade 2. So it definitely taught me to be more easygoing than my typical nature, because I wanted to control everything and I wanted it to look an exact way. And it definitely didn't, but it was a learning experience for sure. So
yeah. And everybody's journey is different. And it's the sad part about the state of the situation for autism programming within schools, that every board of education has such wildly different attitudes, resources. As somebody who has been into probably half the school boards here in Ontario to do placements, follow-ups, in services, Yeah, it's interesting to see, and but like I said, as somebody who's been at it for 27 years, to see how it's evolved in not a good way and supporting the kids just in general, whether they have a dog with them or not. It's kind of frustrating. I think you and I had a conversation. I walked out of the school and said, "Hey, your dog and your kid are doing great. Can I take off my NSD hat and put my mom hat on and go, oh my God, what's going on?"
I know. I felt let down by a lot of people that I had trusted in that moment. So that was a little tricky, but
Yeah.
I worried about them being apart during the day, and now I know like none of that really mattered. They were still, looking for each other and more excited than ever at the end of the day. So really it was part of it, but in retrospect, it wasn't as bad as it seemed in the moment. When it was falling apart, it seemed like the end of the world, but it wasn't. When I look back, it was probably for the best. So,
and I think that's a good message for our existing clients that have kids that are not maybe able to access the school system, to know that it's still going to be okay, that the bond and the benefits can still be there for them, even if the school pieces are not coming together as we might hope or can advocate for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know, do we, Jennifer, I'm just being mindful of time. We have until 7:30, right, Emma? Is it okay if Jennifer, do you want to share some of your journey with Zion and now with your newfound buddy, Patty? And maybe at the end, we'll have time for questions. Does that make sense, Emma?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay. Sounds good. Mine won't be very long. We're Jen and Mark, but Mark is in Europe for 2 weeks. So if you see me fly off into the other room, it's just to check on a kiddo who said his ball is down on the roof and he thought he could get it. And I have given him instructions not to get it till mommy is done. So so we are parents to 5 kids, but 4 of them are all adults and have grown and flown the coop. So we have Zion with us. He's a busy 8-year-old boy. He's a mover and a shaker. He keeps us young and running around. I won't share a lot of his story because that's his personal story, but he received his diagnosis just after the age of 3, and that was the middle of October. And by the end of October, I heard that NSD had opened their wait list for a blip of time. And so I just knew how great having a dog with our older kids had been. And to think that there would be a dog specifically trained for autism just blew our mind. And I think at 12:01, we were ready. Like we were, we had we had a printer. We were out of the country. We had a printer we had brought with us in case we had to print something and scan something. We were so excited to explore what this could mean. We had no idea who he was going to be, how autism was going to look in our household, but we just knew that having a service dog that was autism specific would be such a treasure and such a support for us. And we had no idea, but now we are living the dream. We are loving our Patty. He is the sweetest, gentlest guy. We love him with all our heart. And I'm just going to show a few pictures, and I'll talk as I show the pictures. So Zion has he's on the spectrum. He has ADHD and he is quite anxious.
While you're doing that, Jen, I will tell that story. I did not realize you were one of my midnight applicants.
I was 12:01. We were typing.
I was sitting in a hotel room in Vancouver doing follow-ups, and because of the 3-hour time difference, I opened up, because we posted that we were going to open up the wait list at midnight.
Exactly.
Ontario time. And it was 9 p.m. in BC, and I opened it at midnight. And then all this stuff come flooding in, and 30 minutes later, I had to shut it down again because we'd already hit our quota. So the fact that you were away on vacation when you did that is totally epic. And I need you and I'll have to talk. And this is a memoir.
We were typing as fast as our fingers could type because we thought it could be closed in 10 minutes. We have no idea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was not prepared for that. I figured if we opened it at midnight, it would give us a fighting chance. And I thought, well, I'm going to be in BC when we do it, so I won't have to be up all night monitoring it. I'll know very quickly before I go to bed. And 30 minutes, and we had to shut it down, which is, I mean, we're laughing about it now. It wasn't funny at the time because there was a lot of disappointed people. And which is why I'm so grateful so many other programs have stepped up to do autism service dogs, because the need is huge. But anyway, we'll talk more about that story.
Absolutely. It's funny to hear the other end of the computer. Yeah. So my tech support is in prog right now. So I just cannot get the play button for my slide, but can you see the slide that's there now? Okay, so I'll just go with that. Maybe I'll get to the play button in a minute, but so this is Patty and Zion on our recent trip that we took. They are becoming two peas in a pod. They are becoming best buds. It has been a slow progress, a slow bonding period. And I think it was just my thoughts on how, as Ashley mentioned, I thought it would just be this magical, quick change all of a sudden. But it has taken a bit of time and patience and just adjusting our expectations of how it's going to look and how it's going to develop. But it's developing beautifully. Like, we couldn't be happier with their connection. So right away, in our training, we were told, okay, Patty can sleep with Zion from the first night. And that's where we have a lot of challenges, is our nighttime. We can't, we don't have full night sleeps. We're waking up many times throughout the night, mostly rooted in anxiety, being scared, being lonely. And so right away, Patty just snuggled right in with Zion. He just thought, and he loves getting under the covers. He loves being right up alongside Zion, just to find that deep pressure. And it's very sweet. Every time I see it, I take pictures. I probably have about 100 pictures of the two of them sleeping, because it's just such a special moment to see them snuggle together at night. It has made our night times better. There's still a work in progress. And so sometimes now I have a Zion and a Patty in bed with me, but I don't mind at all. The more the merrier. And but it's definitely helping. Zion also has a lot of anxiety when it comes to going places in our home, and even anywhere, but even going to the bathroom by himself or going upstairs to get something by himself. And so now he'll take Patty with him wherever he goes in the house. We have a little short leash on Patty, and he just takes that and away he goes. And he's happily going anywhere in the house and anywhere now, as long as Patty's with him. They spend quiet time together, mostly just hanging out. When it's tech time, Patty's right there with him. Zion's talking to him all the time, showing him his iPad, trying to convince Patty to watch what he's watching. When COVID finally got us in January, Patty was the biggest comfort for Zion. He snuggled him all day long. And it was really cute to see the two of them. Challenges that we have are just going out into the community and sustaining our time out in the community. So running errands, grocery store. Zion loves to go on train rides, bus rides, but it's quite anxiety provoking as well. So just having Patty there. And I love the look on Patty's face, because he was on the subway in Toronto and it just had started to move when I took the picture. Patty's like, whoa, what's happening here? And and by the time, 5 minutes into the ride, he's like, okay, I don't know if I've been on the subway before, but I know what we're doing here now. So right now we're just working on taking Patty with us and weaving Patty into Zion's daily life, taking him where Zion loves to go and meeting the people that Zion loves to hang out with. And it's just the activities that Zion loves to do as well, playing soccer. The upper right-hand picture is a picture of Zion taking Patty to school to introduce him to his classmates. So it's definitely helped socially. Everyone wants to see the dog, to know about the dog. It allows Zion lots of opportunities to talk to people in the community, teachers, other adults, other kids, to practice his conversation skills. Everyone wants to know about the dog. What's the dog's name? Let me see your dog. All these great questions that Zion gets to answer every time we're out and about. So this is just a video that was just after a meltdown had happened and how it just resolved so quickly with Patty.
He's so goofy. He loves you.
The smile on Zion's face, it just changed that moment. So what had been such an emotionally charged few moments prior to this just resolved into just a beautiful, happy, let's go play with the dog moment. And then we see a lot of this happening now. So they just love to play together. It's
Ooh, good catch.
so these special moments are just happening with increasing frequency and they're just seeking each other out more. Zion will say, let's go do this. And Zion might be a bit apprehensive or hesitant. And we'll say things like, oh, but Patty would really love to go. And he would really love you to come with him. And oh, it just changes the atmosphere. It just changes, yeah. It's lovely. So we just went on a family trip to Florida. And it was a very quick trip. And we thought this will be a great opportunity to try traveling with Patty. Zion was super excited that Patty could travel with us. And he was such a blessing to have Patty there with us because it was a flight at night. And we waited for about 6 hours. So it was close to midnight. And we were told that our flight was canceled and we'd have to come back the next day. And it would have been a meltdown moment for sure. Zion had been waiting and so excited, and then to be told that it's not going to happen tonight. So Patty just was there. He snuggled, he did close with Zion, lots. Zion just kept petting him. And finally the next day we were able to get to Florida and Patty joined us on the beach. He joined us everywhere we went. He really enjoyed it. We were a bit worried. It is a lot of work. Just factoring in how can we make sure that Patty's not too hot at the beach, or his paws, are they going to be too hot, or are we going to face any restrictions on where we can travel? But we didn't. It was a beautiful, beautiful vacation. We had no hiccups. We had no troubles at all.
What troubles?
We didn't have any troubles. The other picture here is our hospital visit, which was a very difficult place to be. But Patty was right there and he had such intuitiveness. He just kept putting his face on Zion's foot to try and comfort him. It was really sweet to see. Patty he always wants to be working. He's always looking at me like, what can I do? What can I do? And so it's okay for him to have that downtime, to have that just being a dog time, just to sit and look at the ocean. We thought he was watching birds in the picture there, and it was actually a coconut that was floating in the water that looked a lot like a calm. And we knew that we're like, he started to dart to get the Kong. We're like, oh no, it's not a Kong, it's a coconut patty. But he just to relax and to be a dog sometimes, it's great for him, because he just is so keen to work, and he does work a lot for us with Zion. He's always on. He's always asking, "What can I do? What do I need, Patty?" So yeah. So we're just new into this adventure. We're only 5 months, I think, in with having Patty in the home, and we're starting to see how they can work together to be more supportive, how Patty can support Zion when we're out in the community, how Zion can rely on Patty, especially during transitions, changes in routine, things like that. We're just discovering every day different ways that Patty and Zion are going to work together. So we're so excited. Like, we can't imagine, like with Ashley's story, like we can't imagine like 10 years from now, the Zion and Patty story, and we're just so excited. So we thank NSD for this opportunity, and yeah, if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was awesome and adorable. I love seeing the dogs and the kids on vacation together. Across the board, that's the one thing a lot of families really point to in terms of just being able to travel as a family, do that kind of cool stuff, and do that, activities of daily living that so many of us take for granted, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Super. Does anybody have any questions for our lovely moms tonight?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you both for sharing your beautiful stories. I helped train both Patty and Sandy, so it's absolutely wonderful to see them working and the impact that they are having on both of your families. And I know that all of our volunteers love hearing and seeing about the end goal, what it looks like for a client, and putting all of their hard work into these lovely dogs. So thank you guys both very much for your time and being open to sharing both of your stories.
Thanks, Emma. We had a question from the chat room wanting to know about the follow-up process. So our follow-up process, I don't know if everybody on this call knows, but NSD retains ownership of all our working service dogs. The families come in through the glory of Zoom. And virtual classrooms. We've changed. Ashley will attest to it. Our team training process is a little bit different. What we used to cram into 7 days, very long, very hard to stay focused days, we now spread out over virtual classrooms for the week leading into team training. They come into the training center for the week for the hands-on stuff, and then we follow them home and do the in-home portions. And we follow up with them regularly through the first year. And then we recertify the dogs in the first year, year 2, year 3, and then years 6 and 9. By the time the teams have reached their 3-year mark, they're usually a well-oiled machine. With the autism teams, it can be a bit different. We might see them more often than in years 1, 2, 3, 6, and 9. Because if the kids are going to school, we have to go in every year and in-service the school staff. So that allows us to have that extra time with the teams to see how they're working, to gather feedback, and to support the families. So the autism program is different than the PTSD program in that way. The school adds that extra element of support that's required. But yeah, no, we recertify. And of course, if there's any issues, these ladies will test. Ashley had mentioned hormones. As the kids go through puberty, things change. How the dogs work with the kids change. So the training and client service team is always there to support and guide them through that journey. So for us, because we retain ownership and the families are engaged with our process over that 8-year working life of the dog, it truly is a partnership with the families for each team. I hope that answers. Was it Craig? Did you ask that question? Yeah. Are there any other questions? Nope. Okay. Well, I'm going to echo Emma's sentiment and thank you ladies for carving time out of your evening to share your stories and your beautiful children. We know the dogs are cute, but your kids are pretty gorgeous as well. So we thank you for sharing. And it really does help folks to understand, because as you guys know, autism is an invisible disability, and it's not always readily apparent that the dogs are real service dogs. I don't know, have either Ashley or Jen, have you guys run into denials of access? Jen, you haven't had any issues yet? No. Ash?
Yeah, when Lola first came home, we had a couple. But we know where to go now and where not to go, so that helps. But like lots of people saying like, where did you get your service dog vest? Did you buy it on Amazon? And I'm like, no, this dog came from an accredited organization. Lots of people ask me if I'm training the dog. We've had that. Have you had that yet, Jen? Asking what you're. Yeah. So people just automatically assume because I'm at the end of the leash that I'm training the dog, that it doesn't belong to us. Lots of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And that's common for a lot of our teams, even our PTSD teams, though their motivations sometimes are different, because if they've got people coming up and asking questions of them, and we tell them, if somebody comes up and says to you, oh, are you training that dog? The fastest way to get out of that conversation and get on with your grocery shopping is to say, yes, I am. Thank you for asking. And you go finish your shopping, do what you have to do. Then you don't have to answer any more questions, unless the security comes over and says, really, it's training? Let me see your paperwork. But yeah, you're lucky so far, Jen, that you haven't run into that. It's a little bit difficult sometimes, to be honest with you, with the kids, because the kids don't understand why they're getting challenged, and it's not always pleasant. Some people can be kind of not nice, and one of the things from the very get-go, one of the things our families said that they thought the dogs helped with when they were out in public was the fact that the dogs make people think twice about doing nasty and saying nasty things. Like if a child was having a difficult moment at the grocery store or in line at the grocery store, and you get all the comments up and down the line of people in line, mumbling under their breath about what an awful parent you are and how you can't, look after your child. You go back 20 years and they'd have been telling you to whack the kid, right? Make them behave. And the dog signals to the greater community that there's more going on here than just what you're seeing, and creates a softer place to land for social interactions for the kids. And that's usually the case. Have you found that it helps you guys with just?
I find too, when we're out and we're having a hard moment, I talk to the dog, saying, oh, he's having a hard time. And if people are listening, he's having a hard time right now. And it's because it's so loud in here. And it helps me to remain calm and be more patient. And it also is giving information to everyone around me as well, that this is okay. We got this. This is, just keep going about your day. It's all good. But it serves two purposes, right? To keep me calm, and to also it's giving information to those around.
That's awesome. That's a good idea. We'll have to get you a t-shirt, Jen, that says stay calm and talk to the dog.
I think especially Landon, when he was younger, kids didn't understand his behavior. and having the dog there, it really helped same age peers understand, okay, he doesn't have an obvious, like you said earlier, like it's an invisible disability. When it comes to Landon, he looks like everybody else. So when he was having tantrums that would be considered not age appropriate, the dog kind of was exactly what you said. But then the peers were less quick to judge, and he was able to make connections and friendships that, without her, I don't know that he would have made. So and some of those kids are, still the same kids that come hang out at our house, and they come and still say hi to Lola because they know where to find her. And
Yeah.
I remember when she was in class with us. So
Well, and for everybody that's on the call that doesn't know, when we go in and do a school placement in a pre-COVID environment, we used to do a big assembly for the entire student body, and we would go in and in-service the entire school about proper service dog etiquette, what to expect when you see the team in the hallway, how to interact, not interact. And I remember one of our early placements, I was doing the negotiation with the school board in Toronto to get the dog in, and they were great to work with. The school board was really great to work with, and they made it very easy. But I remember going in to do the actual placement, and there's like 1,000 kids. We had to do 2 assemblies, so there would have been about 500 kids in the gym for the presentation, times 2. And the older kids came in because it was a kindergarten to 8, and they'd done the juniors and then the senior kids. And the older kids come in, and I always would, give them the blurb and talk to them about, all the stuff. What's a distraction? Like, please don't distract the dog. What are the 5 main distractions and things like that. And I'd always take some Q&A from the kids, and this young man at the back, he put his hand up and he said, well, if we're not allowed to talk to the dog and stuff, but are we allowed to talk to Eric, was the young child's name? And it hit me like a ton of bricks that, I'd done all these talks at several schools to hundreds of kids, and that the way I presented it inadvertently was telling kids to avoid engaging with the team. And this one 12-year-old set me straight, and I've never forgotten that. That was way back in the early 2000s. And it is really important when we're talking to the kids at the school to make sure that they understand that not distracting and engaging with the dog does not mean that the children and their peers are not accessible either, and that it would be really, really good for them to, when they, meet and greet, ask about Landon, ask about Zion, and bypass the dog. The kids always come first. But yeah, those, like I said, early days when everybody was learning, but yeah, so we do support in that way too, going into the schools and helping with those transitions to make it easier for the teams that are actually in a school environment. And I have to tell you, with all the teams we put into school and all the follow-up pieces we've done over the years, the kids are awesome. The kids always get it. They understand that the dogs are helping. They're super duper supportive. Some of the kids have volunteered to relieve the dogs at break. Some of the kids provide busing support, and support the kids while they're transitioning with the dogs on the school bus. It's usually, if we run into problems at school with inappropriately touching the dog or engaging the dog, it's usually the adults, staff, volunteers and stuff that think that the rules only apply to the kids. So it's pretty awesome.